What up, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of NFC B-East. This is the only show tackling the topics that matter the most to the fan bases within the NFC East. And of course, we've got four esteemed panelists to break down all of the action in New York. It's Lou Albanese. This week in Dallas, we got Sam Gannon, and Breland Moore joins us from Philadelphia. Today, we're going to talk about that Commanders' crushing loss at home to the Bears. We'll get into Dallas showing no D in Carolina. But, of course, this conversation has to start with the New York Giants' absolute drubbing of the Philadelphia Eagles. Big G-men, they won that game by a final score of 34-17. Lou, this is the game that Giants fans have been waiting for years and years to come. Has New York proven to be a true threat in the NFC East?
Well, I don't know if they're a threat, but I'll tell you right now, the energy that Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo brings cannot be underestimated. Those two kids have elevated this team to where they actually think they can win. They could win. You know, I was on a show. We do a newsroom live, and they asked me the question around 8:20. Oh, the Giants gonna win? I said they're gonna get blown out. And within minutes later, Jackson Dart scored. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of credit for the Giants winning because as soon as I said that, it was all Giants. But those two guys are amazing, and I gotta say, I don't know if they can keep it up, but their energy level is amazing.
I tell you what, Lou, from that point, if no one else will, allow for me to personally apologize to Jackson Dart. We talked about that young man on last week's show. We talked about him having too much moxie, unearned bravado to his game. He not only got it done with his legs against the Eagles, he also showed arm talent out there as well. I think that they're not quite a threat yet. I think at the end of the day, the schedule's too hard. Even in their best, they end up with 7 victories. But Breland, they just beat up on your birds. What do you say?
Well, I think a lot of it, and we'll get, I'm sure, into the Eagles' issues right now, but a lot of it, I think, was more so on the Eagles side. But I'm not taking credit away. I think Lou is correct. I think those two young men definitely have added a little juice to the Giants that really seemed kind of to be floating dead in the water at a certain point. But I've been very impressed with what they have to do. I apologize as well to Jackson Dart. I'm sorry I was unfamiliar with your game. But yeah, I think I'm with you, Chad, that it's not quite there yet for me, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that there. Again, maybe a 7-win team. Sam, you're down there in Dallas. What did you see?
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far to say they're contenders yet either, but if I'm a Giants fan, I'm feeling really optimistic about the future, right? Because when you talk about that pair of rookies, sometimes that's what you need, that young energy to rejuvenate a franchise moving forward. And this is the beauty of the league this year, guys. I think there's so much parity in the NFC East still from week to week. You don't know what's going to happen. So it really is, you better bring your A game because you can get lost on any given Sunday.
100%, and I am on record as saying that I believe that when all of the chips are on the table, that the NFC East will actually be one of the toughest divisions in all of the NFL. We'll check back in on that in a few weeks. But from a team whose arrow is unquestionably up with the New York Giants, a team whose arrow is down. Breland, your Philadelphia Eagles, 2 consecutive losses. They haven't looked good in about a month out here, if at all, this entire season. Is it finally time to ring the bell in the city of brotherly love?
No, I think that's ridiculous. I think there's so much. The second that the Eagles have an issue, it's an immediate Jalen Hurts blame or Saquon Barkley's not what he used to be. But I think people are missing the elephant in the room, and that is the offensive line. They are so banged up. And this is an offensive line that we've taken for granted here in Philadelphia for many, many seasons because the play is just such a high caliber. But when you have 3 Pro Bowl players, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, and Lane Johnson, all struggling here, no one is going to get the production that they want out of this offense. That is absolutely playing a role in what we've been seeing the past couple of weeks here with this team. So nobody's numbers are correct. I do think that there's something to be said about the new offensive coordinator, whether you're in or you're out on Kevin Patullo. I think it's a little early to tell. But Lane Johnson calling the offense predictable is not a great sign. But that's not taking away from the talent that is on this roster. I do think between veterans like Jalen and AJ and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and that offensive line, they can get it together. But they've got to get healthy first. I think that's the biggest thing going on right now is just the offensive line is just not where it needs to be.
So, Bree, there's a portion of me that agrees with you because no offense in NFC East runs without that offensive line getting it done. But, Sam, I think that the thing that's more disconcerting to me is the fact that you hear Lane Johnson saying that the offense is too predictable. You hear A.J. Brown giving an answer, non-answer about an alleged meeting that they have. There appears to be, from the outside, cracks within this crown. Am I wrong here?
I was going to say, I'm not in that locker room or around the team like you are, Breland, but from the outside looking in, seeing that quote from Saquon Barkley talking about the fact that, he was basically saying, were we predictable last year? We didn't care. We were still physical and aggressive. So when you have different guys, and I think Jalen Hurts was saying, well, I don't necessarily agree with that. When you start to have players, your key players on the offensive side of the ball, kind of butting heads like that, maybe it would raise my eyebrows. I'm still not really concerned right now just because they're still sitting at the top of the division, but that offense is 30th in the league in total yards. So something to keep your eye on, but I'm not so quick to say that, the Eagles should be panicking right now.
Lou, we've talked about this basically every week this season. This Eagles team in the previous 2 years, they've hit a point like this. Last year, they turned it around and ended up being indomitable and winning the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, though, the bottom fell completely out. Where are you?
That's right. Well, I'm right there saying that right now there's a lot of cracks in their offense. And my feeling on Nick Sirianni, I'm not a fan. Last year they had a little bit of problem, but it was early, and it was easy to get back. But they collapsed 2 years ago, and I already heard there was an article where one player is already saying it's going to smell like the collapse. I'm not sure if Nick Sirianni under adversity is the right coach. That's my feeling. Things go well, everything works well. When he has two good coordinators, things work. But I'm not sure about him, especially when his coordinators could be shaky and an offensive coordinator is shaky.
Breland, I remember a year ago, we were sitting right here and all of us were calling for Nick Sirianni, not you, all the rest of us were calling for Nick Sirianni's job. He turned it around at that point. You get the final word on this.
Look, I know Lou is not too high up on Nick Sirianni, but you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we think. The players are extremely high up on Nick Sirianni. Like I said, Kevin Patullo, you can side-eye him. I think that's very, very fair at this point. But I think it's a little early still. I mean, I know that we're mid-October, but like you said, this is basically right where the point was last year when they turned things around. Maybe this mini bye week is the best thing that they could possibly have, playing on Thursday night and having that extra time to sit in it, I think may very well help them. But we also have to see what the injury report looks like. Quinyon Mitchell dealing with stuff as well. Again, Jalen Carter did not play in that Thursday night game. There's a lot going on here. And so I think time will tell whether or not we need to panic fully, but I'm concerned, but not gravely concerned.
All right. Well, we will take your concern and we'll double it because here in the nation's capital, Washington Commanders lost a Monday Night Football huge matchup to Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, 25-24. What was even more concerning about this game was Jaden Daniels' turnovers, threw an interception on the first drive of the game that likely took points off of the board, and then bobbled and ultimately fumbled the handoff on the final possession, which ultimately gave the victory to the Chicago Bears. Sam, previous to the season, there were individuals that were calling for a Jaden Daniels sophomore slump. Is that what we're seeing?
Again, I don't know that we can sit here and say he's automatically in a slump. Like, I think quarterbacks have bad games, and he just happened to have a bad game the other night. You know, you talk about the turnovers, but his final stat line was still 19 of 26, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns with a 119 passer rating. So I think, you know, in the 4 games that he's played this year, he has just 1 interception. So if you go by those numbers, I don't think the sky is falling in terms of Jayden Daniels, but there are going to be adversities that come with these guys through week to week, and that's what we saw, a bad game by him. But I don't know that I would sit here and say that that's going to carry over, you know, for the rest of the year, and we're going to see him just do this downward spiral. I honestly don't believe that.
Lou, I'm going to tell you what it is that how it felt here on the ground. All of last season, when the game was on the line, when the moment was the biggest, at least seemingly, we saw Jayden Daniels play his absolute best and make the winning plays every time that it mattered. So to see him fumble that ball in that position is really what it is that has some questions arising here in the nation's capital. What'd you see?
All young players go through these little spells where they have, they have a little problem here, a little problem there. One of the things, remember, he's playing without his top receiver, Terry McLaurin.
That's right.
And that's a big thing for a young quarterback. Quarterbacks really they always feel like they need that one guy who they trust, and he trusts him. I think Noah Brown now is banged up. You know, the running back, the young kid, that's a young backfield. He didn't have a good game. And they had a few games where things went their way. Remember, the last time they played the Bears was a Hail Mary.
That's
so
right.
This time you got a fumble. So it works both ways. It wasn't like they blew him out the last time. So sometimes the things that work for you at the end, sometimes it doesn't.
Very true, and that's Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. We like to call him Bill around these parts, but to the point that you make, no Terry McLaurin, big issue for this team. Got 2 young guys, Luke and Jalen Lane out there playing on the outside. Chris Moore, whom no one can likely name where he went to school, playing on the outside out there as well. So Jayden Daniels getting this done without his full array of weaponry around him. Breland, what do you see?
Yeah, I think everybody's correct, right? I think this is a little overreactionary. The amount of comments I saw on social media just about Jayden Daniels smiling when things are, maybe that's just his natural, just nervous reaction of just trying to shake it off. The tide changed, and it's one game at the end of it. All young players go through this, as Lou said, and you know, I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say Patrick Mahomes is not one of the best quarterbacks that we're seeing right now. Well, I covered Patrick Mahomes, and he did some really dumb stuff here and there. Early on, it's part of it sometimes. And you look at it and you're like, why would he do something like that? Because he's young and he's learning still. And just because you have success doesn't mean you're not still learning and there's not still some sort of development going on. I think everyone needs to lay off of the kid. He is incredibly talented, and he'll be just fine.
I'm going to give you all what it was that was most impressive to me. It was in his post-game presser when he ran up on that mic. The first words out of his mouth in regard to that fumble was, "That was on me. I am the one who that ball slipped out of my hands. I never even got it to Bill. That was completely on me." When there's a quarterback who can take that kind of accountability with his talent and with his skill, I believe that everybody here in the DMV will be okay. But someone who may not be okay is defensive coordinators in Dallas. And Sam, that's because you all gave up 30-plus points for the 4th time in just 6 ball games here this last week. The offense looks amazing with Dak Prescott. The defense looks defenseless. Is it time for a change at the DC position?
Honestly, I don't know what good it's going to do to fire Matt Eberflus right now unless you think that he's completely lost the defensive guys in the locker room, which I don't think that's the case based on what I've seen being in there and being around the guys. Yes, they're frustrated, but I think this has more to do with personnel, even though Coach Shoddy says it's not about personnel, it's not about the defensive coordinator. He believes it's about execution and communication. That's what he told reporters after that loss against the Panthers. But this run defense that was doing, okay. They were like humming along there. They absolutely fell flat against the Panthers. And now for the 3rd straight week, they've given up, 524 yards on the ground. Ooh. And Rico Dowdle, he backed up that talk and basically told the Cowboys they wasn't buckled up. That's so right. They do have problems, but when you have your third DC in just as many years, I don't necessarily know that that's going to change everything, nor do I think a trade is necessarily going to change anything unless you have a guy, and they did, by the name of Micah Parsons, that you believe is a complete game changer.
Lou, we saw Rico go for over 200. Russell Wilson threw for damn near 450 against this defense. Your thoughts on Dallas?
I know. Yeah, Dallas lost their defense when they lost Micah Parsons. They're not going to, I wouldn't worry about losing my defensive players. They don't have any defensive players. So what are they worried about? So they can't lose what you don't have. Here's the deal. That defense has been bad all year. I don't care who's coordinating it. When you don't have a personnel, you're not winning. And Russell Wilson alone, that showed you right there. Russell Wilson looked horrible all year except for one game. And guess who it was against? That's all you need to know.
The Dallas Cowboys. Breland, ironically enough, or maybe not ironically, this defense probably looked the best against your Philadelphia Eagles in Week 1.
Okay, and that no starters played any preseason, and we just sat here and had a conversation about how this offense may or may not be extremely concerning, and how Kevin Petullo might need to be fired. I don't think that's a great statement there on the Cowboys' part at all. They're ranked 30th or worse in almost every major category. I think Sam is dead on. This is a personnel issue, and it wouldn't matter if I was back there or you or whoever, being the coordinator. It is what it is. It's a personnel problem.
Personnel problem it is. And coming up right here on NFC Beast, we're talking personnel, more specifically running backs, Saquon Barkley and Cam Scatterboo. That's next on the Beast. Welcome back to NFC Beast. We like to call this our running back segment. We're going to start a conversation about two of the most high-profile running backs in the NFC East, starting with Saquon Barkley. Breland, of course, last year we know that Saquon Barkley looked like absolute Superman out there on the football field. You talked about the offensive line in our first segment when speaking about this team. The team, though, not seeming to go to Saquon in the second half again last week against the Giants. Are they preserving him? What's going on there?
The run game is not working right now. You can see that very clearly because multiple times people have complained over and over. We've actually got a fan cam on our Fantastic Sports Show talking about if two 73-year-olds can know that they're going to run it right up the middle and not get anywhere, I think something's wrong here. So talk about predictable offense. No, I think it's not working because A, maybe it is predictable, but B, that offensive line, they're not doing their jobs. They're not there the way that they should be, the way that they were last year to create that space for Saquon Barkley to run. So how is he going to do that if the offensive line is not healthy? So, no, they're not preserving him. It's not effective offense at the moment.
Lou, of course, you have firsthand knowledge of this. You've seen it up close and personal. When Saquon was in New York, even if it was at 2.9 yards per carry, it looked like they were running him even into the back of his offensive guard there. I believe that Saquon had certainly less than 10 carries in the second half against the Giants. Were you surprised that they went away from 26?
Oh, I've been surprised all year they haven't used him. So either if he's healthy, they should run him. So if he's not healthy, I understand. But offensive line problems or not, the Giants never had an offensive line, and they ran him. You have to run him. He's your best weapon. Keep going. And it's up to the offensive coordinator to figure out ways to use him in different ways. Even if he's not running, passing game, different things, he has to be used. He's your number one weapon.
Sam,
Again,
get in
that
there,
has
Sam.
to be done.
Oh. Sam Gannon, your thoughts.
Was that Chad? Yes. No, I was going to say, I agree with Breland, too, and Lou, the fact that, if you don't have a stout offensive line, it's going to be hard to run the ball. But what would concern me is, seeing the frustration with Saquon. You certainly don't want to see this guy get more frustrated as the season goes on, especially because he's arguably your best player. He was coming off a 2,000-yard season. Right now, he's on pace for just under 930 yards on the season, and those losses that the Eagles have had, he was averaging 4.9 yards but had just 18 carries. So I think you got to find ways to get him involved because he's one of your key guys on this offense.
In Breland, post-game, Saquon, as he typically does, he said all of the right things. How do you feel as though from the outside that he's dealing with this?
I think it's a work in progress. They keep things very close to the vest here at the NovaCare complex where the Eagles practice. So we should maybe get a little bit more insight on what's going on. But he did say they have to impose their will a little bit more. And like I said, I think that comes from, unfortunately, the offensive line that's been banged up. But I think we can all agree that this offense, and we talked about it, it is slightly concerning. They definitely need to get things together as we enter the latter half of October. But yeah, things are not working. I don't think it's a preservation thing. I think it's a not working type of thing.
Speaking of imposing their will, Lou, we saw that from Cam Scatterboo and this New York Giants offensive line running the ball, especially in the second half, down the throat of the Philadelphia Eagles. You had Cam out there looking like Arizona State Cam Scatterboo. How good can he be?
Well, as long as he could survive, because I've never seen a guy who gets hit so many times. And when I say get hit, it's his own hit. Yeah. He bangs his head against the wall. He bangs his head against his quarterback. So he has that ability where he can make things happen. Not a great offensive line here in New York, no. But he barrels through. He got speed. He's got determination. And he is just plain crazy. And that craziness plays.
Yeah, and Sam, I tweeted out midway through that game, I was like, yo, this kid is going to really be something if he can stay healthy for the next 3 years. I don't know that it can even last.
Yeah, I think that's always a concern with running backs, right, because of the beating they take and the physical nature that they play. I remember watching Cam Scatterboo in college, and he's just an electrifying player, and he has the type of energy in his play style where that makes other guys around him want to be better, right? Like they feed off that energy. He's third in the league with 5 rushing touchdowns, tied for 5th in the league with 24 first downs. I think, sky's the limit for him, but there's so many things as a rookie that you have to navigate and work through, and we're seeing a glimpse into that in the future for this franchise in terms of what they have for the run game.
And Breland, just to that point there, again, New York Giants fans may not forgive this organization for giving up on Saquon Barkley for years and years to come. But when you see Cam Scatterboo out here doing this, that at least helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, everybody really nailed it. But I will say, it is concerning to watch him play. I don't know if you guys have seen the viral clip of him in college where he's taking his helmet and he's smashing his neck into the brick wall to get his neck right. So, yeah, everybody's nodding their head. They've seen it. That is my concern. Can he stay healthy playing like this bulldozing pit bull? That remains to be seen. But if he can, I think they're in a great spot with both of those two young men up there in New York.
I tell you what, whether they win games or not, at least it'll be exciting. Coming up, we are going to pick this week's games. Keep it locked right here on NFC Beast. Big games going down this weekend in the NFC East. Tough challenges all around. We're going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles. Breland, they're taking on Minnesota in Minnesota, I believe. Who wins and why?
We'll see. I think that's a fair answer. So Quinyon Mitchell had left the game against the Giants with a hamstring issue. The cornerback position is not good in Philadelphia. And if Quinyon Mitchell goes out and Adoree Jackson or Keely Ringo has to be on Justin Jefferson, it's going to be a very long day. Q did practice today. I'm waiting to see what the status is. The locker room opens at 4:30, 4:50 today. So we'll know a little bit more as the hours tick by here. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am a little bit nervous.
I understand
so
that.
I don't know.
Sam, Philly at Minnesota.
I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles. I understand what Breland's mentioning there with just the health and nature of the guys, but I think losing 2 straight is going to set them afire, and I think that they'll find a way to pull out the victory. So give me Eagles.
Yeah, all right, Lou, New York Giants headed to Denver. The bad news is that Denver has a great defense. The good news is that the Giants have that mini bye, and Denver was playing far, far, far away. Who you got?
Their toughest matchup since Dart took over. He looks great at home. He didn't look good in New Orleans. And Denver's going to be a really, really tough matchup. I'm going to go Broncos with this. I think they'll stay close because their defense, the Giants' defense. But this is one where I think there's going to be some problems for Dart, especially with that Bronco pass rush. They are really, really good.
And Breland, I think that the New York Giants, that their defense may give Bo Nix some issues out there on the football field as well. Hard to ask this team to run the ball the way that they did last week, but can the Giants keep it close and potentially win?
Yeah, of course they can do anything, apparently. We've seen that. We've been surprised the past couple of weeks here. But I still am going to go Denver in this. They just were here in Philadelphia. They're a great team, great defense. And I think that Lou's correct there, that this is the toughest challenge Jackson Dart will have. I'm going to go Broncos.
Sam, what do you think? Because I'm actually leaning towards New York here in a huge upset.
I think I'm going Broncos,
Oh,
Chad. I'm going Broncos too. I just don't know how much confidence I have for the Giants to stay consistent, so give me Denver.
All right. Well, I see that I will be tweeting at all of you during this Giants versus Denver game, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Our final game of the weekend, this is a big one. It is one of the biggest rivalries in all of sports, at least that's what us fans here in Washington, D.C. like to say. We got the Cowboys versus the Commanders. Coming back at you, Sam. Who wins this one?
Don't ask me why I'm going to pick the Cowboys, but I am going to pick them because it's just in their nature to come back from that awful loss to the Panthers and go toe-to-toe with another division rival. The offense, as we've slightly mentioned, has been so good, and Dak Prescott, 3rd straight week, he's thrown for at least 3 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb did practice today. They're supposed to be getting him back. Kevontae Turpin, another weapon for them, maybe Tyler Booker as well. I know the defense has been atrocious. The run defense has as well, but the Commanders' run defense has also not been great, especially last week. So give me the Cowboys in a close one.
Excellent, excellent points. Lou, I got to tell you, that Dallas offense, with the way this Commanders defense, to call it up and down would be a bit of an understatement. Where do you go here?
High-scoring game. I still like the Commanders, but very close game. I still think they need McLaurin.
Yeah. Yeah, and Terry McLaurin, I can tell you he was at practice today. I don't believe that he was a full participant, but he is kind of ramping up right now. Breland, where do you sit?
I think the best thing for the Eagles is if the Cowboys win, so I'm going to go Cowboys here. And also, it would be great because you were tweeting at me a storm, Chad. So you know what? I'm going to go Cowboys just so I can side with Sam, so I don't have to see the tweets this week.
You know what? I'm here for it, guys. I don't back down from no smoke on Twitter, Instagram, or anywhere else. I am going with the Commanders to raise hell in Big D. I think that Jaden Daniels has a big game game in a big way, takes advantage of that Dallas defense, and the Commanders defense finds a way to hold on. That'll do it for us right here at NFC Beast. We'll see you next week.